It is June 13th, 2007. We are at the First Presbyterian Church on the corner of Wabash and Miami Street, of Hill and Miami Street in Wabash, Indiana. We are interviewing Ted Hill, and I am Ashley Lichtenbarger. The camera woman is Megan Frick. Ted was in the military, in the Army, attached to an Air Force unit, and during 1954 to 1956, and then in the active reserves for a year after. The highest rank he achieved was sergeant, and most of his term was served in Guam. Okay, Ted, why did you enlist in the military in the first place?
Well, of course, I was drafted, but I volunteered for the draft. I wanted to get it over with, so I just volunteered for the draft.
Was it a peacetime draft?
Yeah,
Okay.
because the Ukraine war was over. It had just been over.
So why did you pick the service branch that you chose?
Well, that was the closest one that I knew about. I didn't like the Navy. I didn't like the Marines. The Army is the best thing I could go into, I thought.
Okay. Do you recall your first days of service?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Well, of course, we went to Indianapolis and got our physicals. Then went right into the Army then. We were sworn in. Then we went from there to Fort Leonard, Missouri. And the first 3 or 4 days we was at the reception center. It was cold. It was cold, and they gave us big Army jackets, coverall jackets, or not coverall, but the wool jackets, big and heavy, but it was still cold. But then they finally got us broke down and gave us all our shots and started dishing out equipment and clothes and broke us down to our units, sent us to our units. We started training.
What did you remember about your boot camp experience and training?
Really not too much, because that was a long way ago. I remembered what they call GI in the barracks. That's cleaning the barracks on a Friday night for inspection on Saturday. And I always hated that GI in the barracks. I hated that to high heaven. But it was just one of those things you had to do.
What was so bad about that?
I think it was work. A lot of it was unnecessary.
Okay.
But it was just keep busy work.
Okay. Do you remember your instructors during basic?
I remember a couple of them, but I can't remember their name. I remember if they walk in here and hadn't changed their look from when I met them, I know them. But I didn't know that. I forgot their name.
Did you get along with them? Were they?
Yeah,
Okay.
along with them.
Where did you go during your experience in the military?
Well, Fort Leonard and then I went to school in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, which was just right outside of Washington, D.C., which I enjoyed an awful lot. There was a lot to see in Washington, D.C., especially the cemetery there, and the tomb of the unknown soldier. It's worth to go see it. Anybody should go see that. I'd like to go back to see it again. And then from Belvoir, we were sent to California and assigned to the Air Force and into a Scarwalk unit, which I told you was special category Army Air Force. It was just about all engineers or earth moving equipment engineers. And what was nice about it, they flew us out there to recover orders for rail travel. We had about 10 days off there in California before we had to report in. So we kind of hit all spots in Oakland, San Francisco, California. And then another fellow and I, we got orders to Guam, and we flew. We flew to Hawaii, and we were there for about 4 or 5 days before we got a plane to go to Hawaii. To Guam. And we saw a lot of the island there, the big island of Hawaii. The biggest, most thoughtful thing I did was we went out on the Arizona. They had a temporary building over the ship of Arizona, and we went out over that and saw the Arizona land down in the water, the oil bubbling up. But then we flew from Hawaii to Guam. We stopped at one island, was Wake. And we were there at night, so we didn't see too much Wake, but there wasn't much to see there anyway, because Wake's just a real small spot in the ocean. And then we flew to Guam, we got there in the morning.
You went to Virginia to go to school. What was your schooling for?
It was called Engineer Foreman Course. We did everything. We learned how to survey, we learned how to run equipment, build bridges, build anything that had to do with earth moving equipment, we learned, as far as how to operate.
And had you traveled a lot before you entered into the military?
Not too much, no.
So it was a big experience for you that
Yeah,
way?
it was a big experience.
All right. Do you remember arriving in Guam and what it was like for you?
Not too much. I remember we landed at the Naval Air Station there in Guam. And there was a fellow that picked us up, I say a pickup truck. It wasn't, it was a 4x4. Of course, anybody in the military, they knew what a 4x4 was. And they took us to our area where we stayed. And I was kind of lost for 3 days, but I got acquainted, and so I started work the next day.
Right. What did you think about the people that you met in Guam, the native people?
The Guamanian people were nice people. They were very nice people.
What was your job or assignment in Guam?
Well, I ran a grader most of the time. I also ran a scoop pulled by cats, scooped up dirt or coral rock. And I also ran a dozer.
What was your unit doing?
What?
What was your unit doing?
We were rebuilding Anderson Air Force Base.
Okay. What are some of your most memorable experiences from your service years?
Well, I think the time that we went on alert, and the Navy went and they had a patrol plane, and they dropped a bunch of bombs on the ocean. And next couple of days, had a bunch of stuff float up on the beach, and it was Chinese. They sunk a sub.
Oh wow. Did they weren't planning to do that? Was that?
Yes, they tried to get the sub identify itself and it wouldn't, so they bombed it.
Wow. Are there any other memories such like that you can recall?
We had a typhoon, and they said there was a group of us that guarded. They only had one radio transmitting aerial there at Anderson. And it was up on a mountaintop. The mountaintop is 1,800 feet out of the mountain for over there. But we just got stuck for 2 or 3 days guarding that. And another fellow and I got up on it and to guard it, and we never got any relief. There for about 3 days. And the OD would come around and give us a little pill to keep us awake. And when it was over with, we got back to our unit, back to barracks, I slept for 2 days.
Don't blame you. Were you awarded any medals or citations during your service?
No.
All right, about your life during the time you were in the military, how did you stay in touch with your family while you were away?
By letter and by phone. Phone sometimes when I was here in the States.
Okay.
Most of it by the letter.
Okay. Did you have a wife or anything when you left?
What do
Wife
you
or
mean
a
now?
girlfriend or someone?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I broke up with my girlfriends when I left.
All right. What was the food like in your mess halls?
I can't remember too much about the basic training food. The food wasn't too bad when I was overseas. We changed battalion commanders, and food wasn't too good when I first got over there. This battalion commander, he had his own plane assigned to him. He'd fly fresh fruit and vegetables out of Japan down to Guam. That meant an awful lot. But we had to pull all of our supplies off the Air Force, and the Air Force pulled all their supplies off the Navy. So we got what was left.
All right. So speaking of supplies, did you have enough supplies?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you do to entertain yourselves on downtime?
We used to go down the island on weekends. We drunk a lot.
Okay.
In fact, we had the refrigerator in our barracks had beer in it.
Okay.
We had beer right in our barracks.
Was that allowed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, we were a working outfit. We weren't a soldiering outfit. We were a working outfit. We hardly ever had inspections. And a lot of times we'd work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But soldiering was just practically out.
What did you do when you were on leave?
I never took leave when I was on Guam. I had my leave between basic trainings, between infantry basic and engineer basic, and I came home and worked
Okay.
for money.
Okay. Other than Guam, is there anywhere else that you traveled while you were in the service?
No. No.
Do you recall any particularly humorous events or unusual things that happened to you?
Yes, this didn't happen to me, but our outfit just came down from Korea. They'd been there about 2 months, and they brought 2 dogs down with them as pets, Most Scotian Little John. And Most Scotian Little John, they hated anybody that didn't smell like a GI. Now we had Filipino KPs. And also Filipinos would come in and clean our barracks during the day. Well, these dogs didn't like them. And once in a while they'd attack one and get him cornered. We'd have to pull them off. But they were pretty nice pups. They're good pups.
Okay.
They didn't like the dogs. We were beside 3rd Air Defense Squadron, which was an Air Force. And they ate in our mess hall, and then they had their pens just off of our barracks area with dogs. And one night, Most Scotian Little John got in that pen, and they cleaned house.
Oh, wow.
They killed about 4 or 5 of the dogs.
Wow. What were some of the pranks that you or others would pull on people? Pranks?
We never pulled up anything much on anybody.
Okay.
And,
What did you think of your officers and other fellow soldiers
uh,
you worked with?
my officers, I like the officers, the company officers, in fact, our battalion officer, I liked him. Major Bender, he come up through the ranks as an enlisted man and finally made an officer, and he just came on up. He was nice, you could go in and talk to him anytime. Our company commander was Captain Petro, and I'll say this much, he had a beautiful wife. She was Miss Germany of 1950,
Wow. Okay.
and she was there with her husband. She was very, very beautiful girl.
Okay. Did you keep a diary or a journal?
No,
Okay. After your service was over, did you come back home?
yep, I came back home.
Did you go to school or work?
I worked and then I went to school and got married.
Alrighty. What did you go to school for?
Well, to school to be an accountant, but I just went for the basics of it. And I didn't, for business reasons. I didn't want to be an accountant, but that's what I went to school for, more or less for a basis.
What school did you go to?
I was at school over in Fort Wayne.
And what did you end up doing after that? What was your career?
Well, I thought I was working for my uncle, and he had plans about him and his wife had plans that after my aunt retired, got old enough to retire, that they were going to turn the business over to 2 or 3 of us. Well, everything went in the ground with her because she died. And I put up with 2 years of it, and I told him, I said, I can't live off promises. So I left. So I went into manufacturing and supervision. And I was plant manager in about 3 different plants, plant superintendent, a couple of them. But I finally wound up working for Sears. And that was the best job I had, commission sales for Sears.
Alrighty. Did your job take you to other places outside of Indiana?
No, just when we moved down to Texas.
Okay.
There for about 15 years.
When did you meet your wife?
I met my wife in probably fall of '53 when I met her. Then I didn't think anything about it. Then I met her through my best friend. Then my best friend got married when I was overseas, and I was supposed to be his best man. Well, I wasn't here, so his dad stood up for him in my place, and was now my wife was in the wedding party. He was bridesmaid, this gal. Well, when I was about a few months ready to come home, when she started writing me, and I thought, well, this would be a good jumping off spot, somebody to come home to. Maybe take out for a couple of times. Well, I did. And I wound up in front of my grandpa. And he said, do you do? And I said, I do. And he asked her the same thing. So we got married. Well, my grandpa married her. And we were married pretty close to 51 years.
Okay. Did you make close friends while you were in the service?
Yes, 1 or 2. One of the service, one I still communicate with him pretty close. I haven't talked to him for over a year. But as time goes on, of course he doesn't live close to me, as time goes on things kind of spread out and you lose contact. I've kept in contact with this one pretty close.
Okay. Back to your wife for a minute. Did you have a family with her? Did you guys start a family?
Yes, we had a girl by ourselves, our own, and then we adopted a boy.
Okay.
And we've got 3 grandchildren now, expecting another one.
Congratulations. Did you join any veterans organizations?
Yeah, I belong to VFW, I mean, not the VFW, but
American.
American Legion.
Okay. With that organization, do you guys do any activities through the organization?
I don't do oath because of medical condition. I just can't do anything.
Mhm.
I was chaplain for a couple of years, but that was just about all I ever did.
Okay. How do you think your military experience influenced the way that you thought about war in the military in general?
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm against war. I think any red-blooded person normally would be against war. But if I have to go to war, I would go because of my country. I think the world loves my country, and I think it's my place to help go defend this country because there's a lot of people out there on the East Coast that gave their life to get this country started. There's a lot of people laying over in Europe and out in the Pacific that gave their life for this country.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How did your services and experience affect your life after your military service was over?
Really not too much. No. I went back to civilian life pretty easily.
Okay. Is there any other story or anything else you'd like to add that we haven't talked about your military life or your life after?
No, really, there isn't. I'm just glad it's over with.
Okay.
I've only got one respect. If I knew back then what I know now, I would have made a career out of the service.
And why do you say that?
Well, because these things didn't work out on my uncle there. And I had a chance to go to warrant officer school to become an officer, a warrant officer, and I turned it down.
Mm-hmm.
But if I knew back then what I know now, I would have taken it. I would have made a career out of it.
All right. Okay, well, thank you for sharing your story with us.
You're welcome.